elements based on the concept movement.
There are four concepts of movement. They are referred to body, space, effort, and relationship.
The first concept that we will tackle is the body. The body is the most basic and important of all the movement concepts. The body is the instrument of movement that gives meaning to the other concepts like space, effort, and relationship. The body concept focuses on the entire body or its parts. It has four categories: the body parts, body shapes, actions of the body parts, and actions of the whole body.
The first category is the body parts category, include common body segments and joints, including the head, neck, ears, eyes, nose, mouth, shoulders, and so on and so forth. The second category is body shapes, which form silhouettes or outlines of the body in space. There are 6 body shapes, or its movement elements: narrow, wide, round, twisted, symmetrical, and asymmetrical. Actions of the body parts is the third category and includes the kinds of roles a body segment can play in a movement. The movement elements of weight bearing, receive force, apply force, lead action, and weight transfer.
The intent of actions of the body part is more specific. In the first movement element, weight bearing. Weight bearing means your feet and legs support your body's weight. And just like, for example, weight bearing in exercise, walking, running. And the most simplest way to demonstrate that weight bearing is just typically standing, because the support base is our 2 feet and legs. The next movement, the elements of actions of the parts, is receive force. Just like, for example, in playing volleyball, the best example of receive force is receiving skills. Just like this, slightly bend your knees, prepare your 2 hands, focus to the target or yung sa bola, kasi yung ball from the opponent, yun yung ma-consider natin as the carrying the force, and ako yung magiging receiver. So, as I receive the ball, syempre, pag tumama na sa akin yung bola, syempre, doon na natin malalaman na mag-receive na tayo ng force. Another movement elements of actions of the parts is apply force. Just like, for example, in playing softball. The best example of apply force is batting skills. Just like this, slightly bend your knees. Now prepare your hands while handling the bat and look to your target. Siyempre, yung bola is yung magiging target natin. Siyempre, as we receive the ball, sa pagbabat natin, syempre, magbibigay tayo ng force para malakas nating matatamaan yung bola ng softball. Another movement elements of action of the parts is lead action. Just like, for example, in playing softball, which is the catching skills. Of course, as they throw the ball to me, then my hands will quickly respond to catch the ball. And of course, as I receive the ball, syempre, which means my hands is the leading action of my body as I catch the ball. The last movement element of the action of the parts is weight transfer. Weight transfer meaning it is a changing of weight from one foot to another foot. So, for example, in walking, and changing of weight from one foot to another foot. And another example is in playing volleyball, which is the serving skills. From normal position or stationary position, I will forward my left foot, and as I release the ball, I will mag-transfer naman yung weight to my right foot.
The final category for the body concept is the actions of the whole body, which are movements or activities performed by the entire person. Actions of the whole body is a very complex category, having 3 subcategories: non-locomotor, locomotor, and manipulative skills.
The non-locomotor skills are executed in a fixed base support and including 15 movement elements. elements are stretch, curl, and twist. There are the primary body movements, which all the other movements can be made. This time, I will execute the first three movement elements of non-locomotor. So let's start with stretching. Next is curl. Curl is bending of elbow. Or another example is doing on dumbbell. Dumbbell exercise or workout. Then last is twist. The locomotor movements or skills are those who move the body from one place to another. At this point, I will going to perform some of the movement elements of locomotor. So let's start with the walk. Next is crawl. The next is bear walk. Next is crab walk. The last subcategories of the actions of the whole body is the manipulative skills. Manipulative skills are also known as object control skills, are actions that involve controlling an object. At this point, I will going to perform some of the movement elements in manipulative skills or movement. So let's start with throw. So this is a scratch of paper, and I will use this as an imaginary ball of softball or baseball. So let's start. Throw. And another movement elements in manipulative skills or movement is roll. And here is the peggy bank, and I will going to use it to roll in the floor. Let's start. Roll. Another movement elements in manipulative is kick. So here's the scratch paper again, and I will use it again to kick. And that would be all about body concept. The next concept that we will tackle is all about space concept. Space concept focuses on where the body moves. It has 6 categories: location, direction, level, pathway, plane, and extension.
Generally, the location or area of where the movement occurs is described as either self-space and general space. The next category is direction. Common directional movement elements include forward, backward, sideways, clockwise, and counterclockwise.
And these are the movement elements in direction. First, forward. Next, backward. The next, sideways to the right. Sideways to the left. And clockwise. And counterclockwise.
Levels are a description of how high or low the movement occurs. Near the floor or below the knees is typical of a low movement, whereas medium level movements are those that are generally between the low and high levels or at the height of the trunk, while the high movements takes a performer into the air or includes movements above the shoulders.
And this time, I will going to perform the movement elements in level. So let's start with low. Next is medium. And next is high. Let's repeat. Low, medium, high.
pathway is typically an invisible pattern or tracing of the movement of the body through space that can occur in either the air or water or on a solid surface like a floor. The following are basic pathway elements. First, straight. Pathway means to move in a direct line. Second is curve. Pathway moves in an arc or semicircle. Then lastly, zigzag. Pathway moves in a crisscross manner.
Next is the movement elements in pathway. So let's start with straight. And next is curve. And last is zigzag.
Another category of shape is plane, and its movement elements are sagittal, frontal, and transverse plane. The last category. The extension category describes the range or size of the movements in space relative to the body. Small, near the body, or large, far from the body.
And this time, I will going to perform the movement elements of extension, which is the small extension and large extension. So first is the small extension. Small extension is near from the body, while the large extension is away from the body.
And that would be all about the space concept. Now, let's proceed to the third concept, which is the effort concept. The effort concepts describe the quality of movement. It has 4 categories, which is the time, force, flow, and focus. The first category in effort is time. The time category addresses how fast the movement is or its rate. Fast, slow, and acceleration are the time elements. Just like, for example, running is a fast movement, whereas walking is a slow in comparison. Changing from a walk to a run involves acceleration, and similarly, changing from a run to a walk is also acceleration. The second category is force. The force category addresses how much tension there is in the movement. First element is hard, and second is soft. The flow category addresses how continuous or fluid the movement is. Bound or steppable and free or ongoing are the 2 elements of flow. The last category in effort is focus. There are 2 focus category movement elements, which is the direct and indirect. And now, we will tackle the last concept, which is the relationship concept. Focus of the relationship movement concept should be on the type of connection that can be occur when moving, thus the who or what of the movement. There are 5 categories of relationships concept provide cohesion of the material presented in this concept, which is the people, position, timing, goal, and environment. People is the first relationships category and describes a variety of ways to be organized to relate to one another. The following are the most basic movement elements of people: solo, alone in a mass, partners, and so on and so forth. The second category is position. A variety of possessional relationships are often in opposite pairs. Some of these relationship terms are very similar, differing only in whether people are moving or stationary. The following elements come from the category of position. The category of timing in the relationships concept has 3 subcategories. First, simultaneous, second, alternate, and lastly, successive. Simultaneous movements are those where the performers are moving together at the same time. They begin together at the same time and they end together at the same time. The following elements come from the simultaneous subcategory are mirror, match, contrast, and unison. Alternate is the second subcategory of timing. It describes the frequent need in the movement environment to take turns. Successive is the last subcategory of the timing category and describes situations in which one movement is followed by another, often as a logical response to the first movement. The following elements come from successive subcategory are movement sequence, canon, question-answer, act-react, and lead-follow. The goal of the movement is the next category in the relationships movement concept and describes how people connect to one another. There are three basic situations, each with a different goal: cooperative, collaborative, and competitive. In this final category, the environment can be either static or dynamic. In a static environment, the object, implement, or apparatus is fixed or stationary, while the dynamic environment, the object, implement, or apparatus is in motion. And that will be all. Thank you!